Taoiseach, because of neglect and failure by the state, many children are having literally their childhood stolen from them. And if this new subcommittee is going to be of any use, it has to actually do things tangibly about that. And I'll just give you two very quick examples. Friday week, a family, working family, with two teenage children, one of them with special needs, despite the eviction ban you mentioned, are going to be evicted from their home. They've done nothing wrong, paid their rent, paid their taxes all their life, and they're going to be evicted from the home they've lived all their lives. And when you go to the council, you go to the minister, sorry, there's no scheme. There's no scheme. We don't have a scheme that they fit into. And so they think they're going to be living in a car in about a week's time. Another case I've raised with you and others for 4 years of a mother who works, ironically, with TUSLA, with vulnerable children, whose own child has lived with her in emergency accommodation for 4 years. His mental health is on the floor. She doesn't tick any of the boxes. Slightly over the threshold for this, no scheme for that, and so on. These kids are suffering. One group of kids is going to be suffering more in a week's time, and there's no scheme to help them. Now, what I want to know is this unit going to intervene in situations like that and say to the housing department or whatever department, sorry, that child is not suffering anymore. They're not going to be allowed forced to live in a car, or if they've been in emergency accommodation for 4 years, we're getting them out of emergency accommodation because they are having their childhood stolen from them.
I just want to thank the deputies for their contributions. Deputy Farrell raised the issue in particular of the childhood disability networks, and they won't specifically fall under the remit of the new unit. They'll obviously fall to Minister Rabbitt, and the transfer of disability functions to her new department, or the Department of Children Equality, Youth and Integration, will be happening on the 1st of March. But it is very relevant to the wellbeing aspect of the unit's work, and I hear the frustration that parents have and endure when it comes to not being able to get assessments of need, or particularly when it comes to not being able to get the treatments and therapies that their children need. Had the chance in the past few weeks to spend some time in Bernardo's, in my own constituency, and also with the family resource centres in Kildare and Newbridge. And I recognise the very good value that we get from the services they provide. It is money well spent, and the return of investment is a very good one. And these are areas where we will invest more in the years to come. On the issue of the hot school meals, I think it's a really great programme, a big fan of it. I don't know the details of St Aidan's and why they're no longer on the programme. If the deputy wants to send me on the details, I'll certainly have it looked into. On the roadmap for social inclusion, as deputies will know, it's our national strategy for poverty reduction and improved social inclusion. It includes a specific chapter on helping children and families with the goal of reducing child poverty and ensuring that all families can participate fully in society. The roadmap incorporates the National Child Poverty Target identified in Bob F and Better Outcomes, Brighter Futures, the National Framework for Children and Young People requiring a 66% reduction in the number of children in consistent poverty by the end of 2021. We had been very much going in the right direction in that regard in recent years, but the pandemic and the cost of living crisis which has followed has thrown that, I think, and unfortunately I expect that'll show up in the numbers quite soon. The roadmap includes two commitments specifically relating to child poverty targets. One is to establish and report on a new target in respect of child poverty to improve Ireland's ranking from 20th to getting us into the top 5 for the EU Silk reporting year of 2025. And this will be the equivalent of reducing the percentage of children under 18 at risk of poverty and social exclusion from around 24% to 16%. And also to continue to report on progress against the national target for reducing the number of children experiencing consistent poverty by the end of 2020, and then set a new target for the period to the end of 2025, consistent with any revised EU targets. In relation to the unit itself, the aim, as I mentioned earlier, is to have the unit established by the end of March with a clear work plan, and preparatory work is underway in that regard. Further work and engagement will inform the scope and programme of work for the unit. The aim is to ensure that the unit brings added value as well as strategic leadership and enhanced accountability to the child poverty agenda, and makes a tangible difference to the lives of children and families. I know the issue of a public model of childcare has been mentioned. I'll have to speak to Minister O'Gorman about that. Perhaps the right way to approach it, if it hasn't been done already, is a pilot of a few public provided childcare facilities, see how they work, see how they compare with the private sector in terms of quality and cost and reliability and so on, and then perhaps take it from there.
Thank you very much.